Hi, I'm Aidan from the Collins Hill branch of the Gwinnett County Public Library. Welcome to the first instalment of Codemaking and Codebreaking. In this series, we're going to be exploring the fascinating world of codes and ciphers. We'll be learning how they work and showing you how you can crack them. The earliest codes and ciphers that we know of are about 2,500 years old. The earliest alphabets are about 3,000 to 3,500 years old. It seems that for almost as long as we've been writing things down, we've been trying to find ways to hide our meaning.
So what is encryption? Encryption is the process of converting a message or a piece of data into a code to hide its meaning.
We actually use encryption all the time without even realizing it, particularly if you use a phone or a computer.
The obvious way is the passwords that we make for our accounts, but there are lots of other applications too. These include accessing internet banking, making purchases online, and even streaming that movie you rented.
In this first installment, I'm going to be showing you two different codes, Atbash and the Caesar Shift cipher. We'll be exploring how they work, and we're going to practice decoding some messages of our own. At times, I'm going to invite you to pause the video whenever you see this symbol. When you do, press pause, grab a piece of paper and some pencils, and see if you can crack the code yourself. Our journey into codemaking and codebreaking begins with Atbash. This is a cipher that is around about 2,500 years old. Atbash is a really great place to start learning about codes and ciphers because it is one of the simplest ones to learn.
Atbash is a monoalphabetic substitution cipher.
What this means is that you can replace one letter or symbol with another, and they will always be deciphered in exactly the same way. So, if a G is represented by an A, it will always be represented by an A within that same document. Atbash was originally created to be used with the Hebrew alphabet, but you can use it with any standard collating alphabet.
A collating alphabet is one in which there is a universally understood order to the characters. As anyone who learned to sing their ABCs knows, English is an example of a collating alphabet. A, B, C, D, and so on. Atbash is a really simple cipher to learn and use. You make a grid by writing the letters from A to Z in one direction. Then on the line below, reverse the order. A will be represented by Z, B by Y, C by X, and so on. Let's try to work out the meaning of this message together. If we look at the letter G on our grid, we can see that it means T. So let's replace it with that in our message. The next letter in our message is S. If we look at our grid, we can see this represents the letter H. Can you keep going? Now's the time to press pause to see if you can work out the rest of the message. If you got the answer, this is too easy, well done on decoding your very first message.
Atbash's simplicity is both its greatest strength, but it is also its greatest weakness. Once you recognize that Atbash has been used, you can quickly decipher it, because there is only one way that you can use it.
It also stands out as an encoded text because of the frequency of the letters Z and B, two letters which are very rarely used in normal English text.
Our second cipher is the Caesar Shift cipher.
This dates back a little over 2,000 years.
It is one of the oldest and also one of the simplest forms of encryption.
Like Atbash, it is a monoalphabetic substitution cipher, and it also requires that collating alphabet.
You may be wondering about its name. Who was Caesar?
It is named for the general and first emperor of Rome, Julius Caesar. He famously used a shift cipher to communicate sensitive military and political information.
A shift cipher keeps the standard collating order of the alphabet, but chooses to start with a different letter. For instance,
a shift of 1 would mean that A will be represented by the letter B, B will be represented by the letter C, and so on. When you shift by 2, the alphabet begins with the letter C. Shift by 3, D, and so on.
This means that when you're working with the English alphabet, there are 25 different ways you can use the Caesar shift cipher. Knowing that it's been used is not enough. You need to work out which of those 25 variations it is.
It is important to remember that if there has been a shift of 3, each letter has been advanced 3 letters forward in the alphabet. To decode the message, we then need to move backwards 3 letters. Julius Caesar used a shift of 3, so I did the same in encoding this message. The very first letter of this message, L, represents the letter I. Now this is a chance to pause and see if you can work out the rest of the message yourself. If you got the message, "Is this easy?" Well done. You have learned the basic principles of how to decode a message written using a Caesar cipher. Now this does have some clear advantages over the Atbash cipher. It is simple to use and can be quickly decoded. The recipient only needs to know how big the shift has been, and then they can decode the message.
Now, in modern terms, no monoalphabetic substitution cipher is secure. I can go to a website and plug in a page of text and hit a button and it will instantly show me every possible translation. Even 2,000 years ago, it was possible to solve a Caesar shift cipher as long as someone had the patience to perform what's called a brute force attack.
A brute force attack is when someone tries each possible combination in turn until they find one that produces a message that makes sense.
This can be an exhausting process, but with any cipher that has a limited number of permutations, it can be done if you have the patience.
Take a look at this coded message. It is short, and I'm not going to tell you which shift has been used. Do you think that you can solve it? If you want to try, pause now. How many words are there in the English language that are just 1 letter long? There are only 2, A or I. If our letter K represents the letter A, we're looking at a shift of 10. If it represents the letter I, it's a shift of 2. So as you can see, we've already narrowed down from 25 possibilities to just 2. We can test and try these both and see which one gives us better results. As you can see, it is clear that the message only makes sense with a shift of 2. If you got this right, then yes, you are a genius. In spite of its vulnerability to brute force attack, the Caesar cipher seems to have been used successfully for centuries. Julius Caesar was able to use the cipher knowing that there were low levels of Latin literacy outside of the Roman Empire. If someone came across an encoded message, they probably would assume it was written in a language they just didn't know. It was nearly 1,000 years before an explanation appeared as to how to solve the Caesar cipher.
That explanation can be found in Al-Kindi's manuscript on deciphering cryptographic messages. It was this document that introduced us to the idea of frequency analysis. This is such an important idea, we'll be talking about it in detail next time. Thanks for joining me for this first installment of Codemaking and Codebreaking. Next time we're going to be exploring a couple of other examples of monoalphabetic substitution ciphers. We'll also delve into the fascinating world of frequency analysis, exploring how we can use math to solve codes and ciphers. Thank you.